Before we begin, let me ask you something. If you received an invitation to a place where secrets were buried, lies were protected, and someone already knew a death was coming, would you still go? Welcome to Mystery Manor Audiobooks. You're not just listening to a story tonight, you're stepping into it. This is Shadows at Blackwood Estate, a mystery where wealth hides guilt, history refuses to stay buried, and every guest has something to lose. If you love slow burn suspense, hidden conspiracies, and stories that make you question who can be trusted, you're in the right place. Settle in, turn down the lights, and listen closely. Because some houses don't just hold secrets, they protect them. As you listen, tell me in the comments, would you accept the invitation or walk away? I read every comment. Shadows at Blackwood Estate. Book 3 of the Ravenwood Cove Mystery Series. Chapter 1. The Invitation. The envelope arrived at the Ravenwood Cove Police Department on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a courier in an impeccable black suit who looked as out of place in the converted Victorian building as a yacht in a lobster trap. Detective Emily Wilson turned the heavy cream cardstock over in her hands, studying the embossed raven crest with narrowed hazel eyes. Her instincts, honed by 2 years back in her hometown and a decade before that in Boston, whispered warnings. Well, Sheriff Tom Harris leaned against her desk, his salt and pepper mustache twitching with barely suppressed curiosity. You going to open it or perform a full forensic analysis first? Emily shot him a look. After the Mill Ruins case, I don't take anything from the Blackwood family lightly. Morgan Blackwood's in county lockup waiting trial, Tom reminded her gently. Has been for 3 months. His estate isn't. Emily slid her finger under the seal and withdrew a gilt-edged invitation. She read aloud. The Blackwood Estate Foundation requests the honor of your presence at the Autumn Gala, a charity benefit for the Ravenwood Cove Historical Society. Saturday, October 15th, 7 o'clock. Black tie required. Tom whistled low. Didn't expect that. There's a note. Emily unfolded a second sheet of heavy paper. Handwritten. The script was elegant, old-fashioned. Detective Wilson, I understand you may have reservations about accepting this invitation, given recent events. However, I assure you that the Foundation's work is entirely separate from my nephew's unfortunate choices. The Blackwood Estate has been part of Ravenwood Cove's history for over a century. It would be a shame to let one man's crimes destroy that legacy. The gala will benefit the Historical Society's restoration of the old mill. I thought you might appreciate that connection. I do hope you'll attend. Sincerely, Victoria Blackwood. Victoria Blackwood, Emily repeated. Morgan's aunt. I didn't know he had family still alive. Neither did anyone else, apparently. The new voice belonged to Ben Matthews, who appeared in the doorway of the police station with his leather satchel slung over one shoulder and that familiar glint of curiosity in his blue-gray eyes. I've been digging through the Gazette archives since you called. Emily hadn't called him. She raised an eyebrow. Ben had the grace to look sheepish. Lucy might have mentioned the courier. Small town. 5 minutes, Emily said. The man was here 5 minutes. Lucy has a network. Ben pulled out his phone, swiping through photos of old newspaper clippings. Victoria Blackwood, née Ashford. She's 72, moved back to Ravenwood Cove 6 months ago after living in Paris for 40 years. Art collector, philanthropist. and according to a society column from 1973, the black sheep of the Blackwood family for refusing to marry the man they picked for her. Romantic, Tom muttered. Rebellious, Ben corrected. She bought out the Blackwood Estate when Morgan's properties were seized, kept it out of state auction. Rumor is she and Morgan haven't spoken in decades. Emily studied the invitation again. Something about it nagged at her, not the words themselves, but the timing. The gala's in 3 days. Very short notice for black tie, Tom agreed. Or very deliberate. Emily set the invitation on her desk and crossed her arms. What do we know about this historical society connection? Ben scrolled through more notes. The foundation announced a $250,000 donation to restore the old mill as a museum. The grant was approved by the Historical Society Board last week. It's legitimate. Who's on the board? Martha Higgins was the president, but she's... Ben paused delicately. In county lockup, Emily finished. Like Morgan Blackwood, awaiting trial for murder. Right. The interim president is Professor Edmund Hartley from Ravenwood College. Emily's pulse quickened. The Hartley name had come up in the festival fiasco investigation, part of the old corruption involving town founding families. Any relation to David Hartley's great-nephew, Ben confirmed. But Edmund's clean, as far as I can tell. He's a history professor, been here 15 years, specializes in maritime archaeology. Tom pushed off from the desk. So we've got a mysterious aunt nobody knew about, throwing a fancy party at an estate that was involved in a surveillance operation and multiple conspiracies to benefit a society run by a member of a family connected to previous crimes. He paused. Did I miss anything? The fact that every wealthy family in 3 counties will be there, Ben added. Plus local politicians, business owners, and apparently the entire Ravenwood Cove Police Department. He pulled out another cream envelope from his satchel. I got one too. Plus guest. Emily looked at him sharply. Ben raised his hands. Don't look at me like that. I'm going for the story. The Gazette's covering it. Of course you are. Emily turned to Tom. You getting one? On my desk when I came in. Tom's expression was thoughtful. Along with one for Sophia and one for young Ramirez. Victoria Blackwood wants law enforcement there. Question is, why? The question hung in the air like fog over Raven Lake. Emily's phone buzzed. A text from Deputy Carlos Ramirez. 2 suspicious vehicles reported near Blackwood Estate. Want me to check it out? She replied, on my way. Duty calls, Emily said, grabbing her weatherproof jacket from the back of her chair. Ben, can you dig deeper into Victoria Blackwood? Foreign bank accounts, property holdings, anything that doesn't add up. On it. And Tom, I'll call in a favor with the state police, Tom said. See if anyone's been keeping tabs on the Blackwood Estate since Morgan's arrest. Emily headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. Find out who else is on the Historical Society Board. All of them. As she stepped out into the crisp October morning, the salt tang of the ocean mixing with the smell of pine from the surrounding forest, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just been invited to something far more dangerous than a charity gala. Her instincts were rarely wrong. The Blackwood Estate commanded the highest point on Raven's Head Cliff, a modern architectural monstrosity of glass and steel that glittered like a crown above the Atlantic. Emily had been here once before, during the Mill Ruins investigation, when they discovered Morgan Blackwood's surveillance room. Now, as she pulled her department SUV up the winding drive, she noticed changes. Security cameras, new ones, different from Morgan's hidden network, were positioned openly at regular intervals. The iron gate stood open, flanked by workers in safety vests who were trimming hedges and repairing stonework. A moving truck sat in the circular drive. Deputy Ramirez met her at the entrance, his dark eyes alert. "Detective, the suspicious vehicles turned out to be caterers. They're setting up for Saturday." 3 days early? Victoria Blackwood apparently has high standards. Ramirez consulted his tablet. "I ran the catering company, Clean Slate Events out of Portland. Legitimate, high-end. They've done events at the governor's mansion." "But?" Ramirez's lips quirked. He'd learned to read her instincts. "But one of their vans has been here since 6 this morning. That's a long time for a preliminary setup." Emily studied the estate. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see workers moving inside. But something felt off. "Did you request access?" Victoria Blackwood herself gave permission, said transparency is her new policy. He gestured toward the entrance. "She's waiting in what she calls the solarium." They entered through doors that whispered open automatically. Inside, the estate was being transformed. Gone were Morgan Blackwood's cold, minimalist furnishings and surveillance monitors. In their place, antique furniture, oil paintings and gilt frames, and arrangements of autumn flowers that filled the air with the scent of chrysanthemums and sage. A woman emerged from a doorway on the left. She moved with the grace of someone who'd spent decades in Parisian society. Her silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, her navy dress simple but clearly couture. When she smiled, Emily saw a hint of Morgan Blackwood's sharp features. But where his eyes had been cold gray, Victoria Blackwood's were warm blue. "Detective Wilson." Victoria extended a hand. Her grip was firm, her skin cool. "Thank you for coming. I hope my invitation didn't alarm you too much." "It raised questions," Emily said honestly. "Good. I respect healthy skepticism." Victoria gestured toward the solarium, a glass-walled room overlooking the ocean. "Shall we?" The solarium was a stark contrast to the rest of the house. While other rooms were being filled with antiques and art, this space held only 2 chairs, a small table, and an expansive view of the churning Atlantic below. "I kept it simple," Victoria said, settling into one of the chairs and motioning for Emily to take the other. Ramirez positioned himself near the door, professional but present. This room was Morgan's favorite. He'd sit here for hours, watching the town below like a king surveying his kingdom. "He had cameras surveying it too," Emily said. "Yes." Victoria's expression hardened. "I found his surveillance room. I had it dismantled and everything turned over to the district attorney. You'll receive copies of all files." Emily studied her. "You're being very cooperative." "I'm being very ashamed." Victoria folded her hands in her lap. "My nephew's actions, the surveillance, the conspiracies, the deaths, they're a stain on the Blackwood name. I intend to clean it." "With a gala?" "With redemption." Victoria met her gaze steadily. "The Blackwood fortune was built on shipping and timber, Detective. Legitimate businesses that employed half this town for generations. Morgan corrupted that legacy. I intend to restore it." "By throwing a party?" "By opening this estate to the community for the first time in 50 years. by funding the restoration of the old mill, the site of Morgan's greatest crime, into a museum that will tell the truth about what happened there. By making amends. Victoria paused. And by proving that not all Blackwoods are monsters. Emily had to admire the strategy, even as she questioned the motives. The timing seemed sudden. You've been back 6 months. Why now? Victoria's smile was sad. Because I'm dying, Detective. The words hung in the air. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Victoria continued matter-of-factly. I have perhaps 6 months. I want to spend them making sure the Blackwood name means something other than surveillance and murder when I'm gone. Emily felt a pang of sympathy, followed immediately by suspicion. It was the perfect cover story. Dying woman making amends. Who would question it? I'm sorry, she said, meaning it even through her skepticism. Don't be. I've lived a full life. Paris, London, New York. More art and beauty than most people see in 3 lifetimes. I'm ready. Victoria stood, moving to the window. But I'm not ready to die, knowing Morgan destroyed everything my family built. Hence the gala. You're inviting the entire town's elite to a house that was recently the center of a criminal conspiracy. I'm inviting them to see that the house has new management. Victoria turned back. I'm also inviting law enforcement because I believe in transparency. If anything goes wrong Saturday night, I want the town's best detective on the premises. You think something will go wrong? I think that when you gather Ravenwood Cove's wealthy and powerful in one place, secrets have a way of surfacing. Victoria's expression was knowing. Don't they, Detective? Before Emily could respond, the sound of raised voices echoed from somewhere deeper in the house. Ramirez moved immediately, hand on his radio, but Victoria raised a calming hand. Probably the caterers arguing about table arrangements. They're very passionate. But her eyes had shifted to the doorway, with something that looked almost like anticipation. Emily's instincts screamed, "Deputy Ramirez, check it out." He disappeared down the hallway. The voices grew louder, definitely an argument now, though the words were indistinct. Victoria remained perfectly composed. Would you like to see the ballroom? That's where the gala will be held. I'd like to know why you really invited me here, Emily said. Victoria met her gaze. I invited you because someone is going to try to kill me Saturday night, Detective Wilson. And I want you to catch them. Chapter 2. The Guest List. Ravenwood Gazette occupied a 2-story brick building that had housed the town's newspapers since 1891. Ben Matthews loved everything about it. The creaking floorboards, the smell of old paper and printer ink, the archives in the basement that held every secret the town had ever whispered. Today, those archives were his hunting ground. Come on, he muttered to the microfilm reader, scrolling through decades of society pages. Victoria Blackwood didn't just appear out of nowhere. His desk was covered with printouts, sticky notes, and half-empty coffee cups. Around him, the newsroom hummed with activity. Linda Martinez banging out the weekly police blotter. Young Sarah Chen working on her first investigative piece about the town council budget. Ben's editor, Jack Fuller, appeared at his shoulder. Tell me you're not going down another rabbit hole. Too late. Ben pulled up a photograph from 1971. Look at this. The image showed a young Victoria Blackwood at what appeared to be a Blackwood Estate garden party. She stood between Morgan's father and another man Ben didn't recognize. Victoria was smiling, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "So?" Jack said. "So 3 months later, she left for Paris and never came back. Until now." Ben switched to another microfilm reel. "But here's what's interesting. In the 6 months she's been back, she's made 3 large property purchases in Ravenwood Cove. Maybe she likes real estate? Maybe she's buying up something specific." Ben pulled up a map he'd marked with red dots. The old shipyard warehouse on Harbor Street, the Ashford building downtown, her maiden name, by the way, and a plot of land on Ravenshead Road right next to the Blackwood Estate. Jack leaned closer. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking she's not just here to make amends. She's here to build something, or find something." Ben tapped the map. "These properties all have one thing in common. They were owned by families involved in the 1978 mill fire." Jack whistled low. "The same fire Morgan Blackwood helped cover up." "Exactly." Ben's phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Victoria says someone's going to try to kill her at the gala. Need you to investigate everyone on the guest list." Ben showed Jack the message. "You've got to be kidding me," Jack said. "I wish I were." Ben was already opening his laptop. "Time to earn my journalism award." The guest list arrived by email an hour later, courtesy of Victoria Blackwood's assistant, a crisp professional named Margaret Chen, who explained that Miss Blackwood believed in transparency. Ben printed it out and stared. 83 names. "Okay," he said to his empty office. "Divide and conquer." He created a spreadsheet with columns: name, occupation, connection to Blackwood family, connection to town scandals, motive. The first category was easy: the town's elite. Mayor Caroline Whitaker, recently re-elected after her daughter Anna's brief term. The Ravenwood College president, several town council members, the heads of the Historical Society, the Hospital Board, the Library Foundation. Then came the wealthy outsiders: Portland socialites, a Boston art dealer, 2 New York collectors, a French diplomat. Ben cross-referenced each name against the Gazette's archives and his own research files. Patterns began to emerge. Professor Edmund Hartley, Historical Society president, great-nephew of David Hartley, involved in mill fire cover-up. Malcolm Ashford, Victoria's brother, a reclusive poet who lived in Portland and hadn't spoken to Victoria in 40 years, according to a 1983 interview. Constance Whitaker, Mayor Whitaker's mother, who'd been at the original Blackwood Estate garden party in 1971. Dr. Richard Sterling, Ravenwood Medical Center's chief of surgery, who'd been Morgan Blackwood's personal physician. The connections spiraled outward like a spider's web. Every name touched another scandal, another secret, another piece of Ravenwood Cove's carefully buried history. Ben's phone rang. "Lucy." "You sound stressed," she said without preamble. "Come to the diner. I made blueberry pie." "I can't. I'm drowning in research." "That's why you need pie. It's brain food." 10 minutes later, Ben found himself in a teal vinyl booth at the Seafarer Diner, a slice of pie rapidly disappearing in front of him. Lucy slid in across from him, her warm brown eyes assessing. "Emily called," she said. "Said someone's going to die at the Blackwood Gala." Possibly Victoria Blackwood herself. Lucy's eyebrows rose. "That's bold of her to announce." "Right?" Ben pulled out his laptop. which makes me think she has a plan. She's either setting a trap or controlling the narrative. Or both. Lucy flagged down one of her waitresses and ordered 2 coffees. What do you need? What do you know about Malcolm Ashford? Lucy's expression flickered. Victoria's brother. He used to come to the diner back when I first opened. Quiet man, always ordered the same thing, black coffee and rye toast, tipped well. Used to? Stopped coming about 3 months ago, right around when Victoria bought the Blackwood Estate. Ben made a note. Did he seem upset? Angry? No, just absent. Like he was there in body, but his mind was somewhere else. Lucy paused. Why? He's on the guest list. After 40 years of not speaking to his sister? Lucy shook her head. That's not reconciliation. That's confrontation. Ben's instincts, which had been quietly humming, suddenly screamed. Lucy, you're brilliant. I know. Eat your pie. Back at the Gazette, Ben dove deeper into Malcolm Ashford's history. What he found made his skin prickle. Malcolm Ashford had been a promising poet in the 1970s, published in literary magazines, even had a collection come out with a small New York press. Then, in 1981, silence. No more publications, no more readings, nothing. But his financial records told a different story. Ben used a journalist's trick he'd learned during his true crime blog days. Property tax records and court filings were public information. Malcolm Ashford owned a small cottage in Portland, mortgage-free. He received a monthly payment from something called the Ashford Trust. The Ashford Trust, Ben discovered after an hour of digging, had been established in 1971 by Victoria and Malcolm's father. It paid each sibling a monthly stipend, enough to live comfortably but not lavishly. The interesting part? The trust dissolved upon the death of either sibling. If Victoria died, Malcolm inherited everything. The Blackwood Estate, Victoria's art collection, her European properties. Motive, Ben whispered. His phone buzzed. Emily again? Found anything? Ben replied, Malcolm Ashford stands to inherit millions if Victoria dies. He's coming to the gala. Emily's response was immediate. Get me everything you can on him. We need to move fast. Ben was already pulling court records when his office door opened. He looked up to find a man in his 70s standing there. Thin, slightly stooped, with silver hair and the wary eyes of someone who'd learned not to trust easily. Mr. Matthews, the man said, I'm Malcolm Ashford. I believe you've been researching me. Chapter 3, Poison and Prophecy. Dr. Sophia Patel set down her teacup and regarded the woman across from her with professional concern. You're certain you want to proceed with the gala? Victoria Blackwood sat in Sophia's private office at Ravenwood Medical Center, looking perfectly composed despite the medical file sitting between them. The file that detailed a cancer so aggressive. Sophia had initially questioned the diagnosis. I'm certain, Victoria said. I have 6 months at most. I'd like to spend them productively. Hosting a party where you expect someone to try to kill you doesn't strike me as productive. No. Victoria's smile was enigmatic. What would you suggest instead? Sitting in a Paris apartment, watching the Seine flow by while I wait to die? I've done that for 40 years, Doctor. I'm tired of waiting. Sophia understood running from things. She'd moved to Ravenwood Cove to escape the pressure of her residency in Boston. seeking the slower pace of small-town medicine. But she'd learned that small towns had their own pressures. Everyone knowing everyone, secrets layered like sediment. "I'm required to ask," Sophia said carefully, "whether you're experiencing any suicidal ideation." "I'm not planning to kill myself, if that's what you're asking." Victoria's expression turned thoughtful. "Though I suppose inviting a murderer to a party comes close." "Emily says you know who's going to try to kill you." "I have suspicions, strong ones." Victoria stood, moving to the window that overlooked the hospital parking lot. "I spent 40 years in Europe, Doctor, away from this town, this family, this curse. Do you know why I left?" Sophia waited. "I was 19, in love with a boy my family thought was beneath me. Thomas Chen, yes, relation to your medical center's Margaret Chen. He wanted to marry me. My father wanted me to marry Julian Whittaker, who was 20 years older and perfectly acceptable to Ravenwood Cove society." Sophia's mind raced. Julian Whittaker, Mayor Whittaker's late husband. "I refused," Victoria continued. "My father threatened to cut me off, to destroy Thomas's family. So I made a choice. I left, went to Paris, built a life, watched from afar as my family rotted from the inside. And now you're back to fix it." "I'm back to expose it." Victoria turned from the window. "Do you know what the Blackwood fortune is built on, Doctor? Murder. Not just the mill fire, though that's certainly part of it. Generations of murder, covered up, paid off, swept under expensive rugs." Sophia felt cold. "Then why not go to the police? Give them evidence?" "Because I don't have evidence. I have memories, suspicions, stories told in whispers at garden parties." Victoria's expression hardened. "So I'm forcing the issue. I'm gathering everyone who might have blood on their hands in one place, and I'm daring them to make a move." "That's insane." "That's justice." Victoria collected her purse. "The cancer is doing its job, Doctor. I'll be dead within 6 months regardless. At least this way, I might take a few monsters with me." She left before Sophia could respond. Sophia sat in her office for a long time after Victoria departed, staring at the medical file. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer was a death sentence, yes. But something about the timing nagged at her. She opened her computer and pulled up Victoria's complete medical history, or what existed of it. Victoria had been a patient at the medical center for only 3 months. Before that, her records showed treatment in Paris under a Dr. Henri Beaumont. Sophia sent a carefully worded email requesting Victoria's full European medical records. While she waited, she reviewed the initial tests that had confirmed Victoria's diagnosis. Blood work showing elevated CA-19-9 tumor markers. CT scans revealing a mass in the pancreatic head with metastasis to the liver. The scans had been performed by Dr. Richard Sterling, the medical center's chief of surgery and radiologist. Sophia pulled up his notes. Everything looked standard. Detailed descriptions, proper protocols followed. But Dr. Sterling was also on the guest list for the gala. Sophia's phone rang. Emily. "Tell me about Victoria Blackwood's cancer," Emily said without preamble. "I can't discuss patient information." "Sophia." Emily's voice was firm but not unkind. "Victoria told me she's dying. She told me someone's going to try to kill her. If those two things are connected, I need to know how." Sophia made a decision. The diagnosis is legitimate. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, terminal. But the timing troubles me. Meaning? Meaning pancreatic cancer is usually caught too late because symptoms don't present early. But Victoria's was found at a routine physical just 3 months ago. Sophia pulled up the records. Dr. Sterling ordered the tests based on what he called clinical intuition. Is that normal? It can be. Good doctors develop instincts. Sophia paused. But Dr. Sterling is also a radiologist, not an oncologist, and he's the one who performed all of Victoria's scans. She could practically hear Emily's mind working through the phone. Could the diagnosis be wrong? Emily asked. Not unless the scans are faked, which would be nearly impossible to pull off without multiple people noticing. Sophia scrolled through the images again. But something about this feels orchestrated. Find out, Emily said. I need to know if Victoria Blackwood is really dying or if this is all part of a bigger plan. The response from Dr. Beaumont in Paris came at midnight. Sophia had stayed late at the medical center, unable to shake her unease. She opened the email and felt her blood run cold. Dear Dr. Patel, I am confused by your inquiry. Victoria Blackwood was indeed my patient for 15 years, yes. However, she ceased treatment 6 months ago when she returned to the United States. At that time, her cancer was in remission following successful treatment. The last scans I performed showed no evidence of disease. If Ms. Blackwood has relapsed, I am deeply saddened to hear it. Please send me her current scans so I can review. With concern, Dr. Henri Beaumont. Sophia read the email 3 times. Then she pulled up Victoria's Ravenwood Medical Center scans and Dr. Beaumont's last European scans, sent as attachments. The difference was stark. 6 months ago in Paris, clean. 3 months ago in Ravenwood Cove, terminal cancer. It was medically possible for pancreatic cancer to return that aggressively. But the odds were astronomical. Sophia called Emily immediately. We have a problem. Victoria Blackwood's cancer diagnosis might be falsified. Are you sure? I'm sure her Paris doctors have no record of active disease 6 months ago. I'm sure her current diagnosis comes from Dr. Sterling, who's connected to the Blackwood family and is invited to the gala. Sophia pulled up the scans side by side. I think someone wanted Victoria Blackwood to think she's dying. Why? Because a dying woman makes different choices than a healthy one. Sophia felt sick. She came back to Ravenwood Cove to set her affairs in order. She's planning a gala, making donations, exposing secrets, all because she thinks she has 6 months to live. But if she's not dying, then someone manufactured a terminal diagnosis to manipulate her actions, Sophia finished. The question is, who benefits from Victoria thinking she's dying? Emily was quiet for a moment. Then, everyone on that guest list. Because if Victoria dies at the gala, the scandal would destroy the Blackwood name forever. No redemption, no legacy restoration. Just another Blackwood death wrapped in mystery. You think that's the goal? I think, Emily said slowly, that someone wants to make sure the Blackwood secrets stay buried, and they're using Victoria's own plan for redemption to do it. Chapter 4. The Brothers' Secret. Malcolm Ashford stood in Ben Matthews' office at the Gazette like a ghost from a forgotten story. His silver hair caught the lamplight, and his hands, poet's hands, long-fingered and ink-stained, trembled slightly as he set down a worn leather satchel. You're very good at research, Mr. Matthews, Malcolm said quietly. I've been watching your blog. The way you uncovered the mill fire conspiracy was impressive. How did you know I was researching you? Ben asked, keeping his voice casual even as his mind raced. He hadn't published anything yet. Because I'm about to attend a party where my sister expects someone to try to kill her, and I'm on everyone's suspect list. Malcolm sat in the visitor's chair without being invited. Including yours, I imagine. Should you be? Malcolm's smile was sad. That depends on whether you believe blood is thicker than resentment. Ben pulled out his notebook, old-school journalist instincts kicking in. Victoria left Ravenwood Cove in 1971. You stayed. Why? Someone had to watch the family crumble. Malcolm's eyes went distant. Our father was a tyrant, Mr. Matthews. Built the Blackwood fortune on other people's suffering and called it business. Victoria was smart enough to escape. I was too much of a coward. That's not what your poetry suggests. Malcolm looked surprised. You've read my work? 3 volumes, all published between 1974 and 1981. Ben had downloaded them from an online archive last night. They're good. Dark, but good. Why did you stop writing? Because my father died in 1981, and I learned the truth about what our family had done. Malcolm's hands clenched. Murder, Mr. Matthews. Not metaphorical murder, actual blood on actual hands, and my trust fund was built on it. The mill fire. Among other things. Malcolm opened his satchel and withdrew a leather-bound journal. My father kept a diary. I found it after he died. It details 50 years of Blackwood family crimes, bribes, threats, arson, and yes, murder. Ben's heart hammered. Does Victoria know about this? She's known for 40 years. I sent it to her in Paris. Malcolm's expression turned bitter. She did nothing. Stayed in her safe European life while I drowned in guilt here. Why didn't you go to the police? Because I'm a Blackwood, and Blackwoods protect the family name, no matter the cost. Malcolm pushed the journal across the desk. But I'm done protecting it. Take this. Publish it. Let the town know what we really are. Ben stared at the journal. If Victoria's known about this for 40 years, why is she only now trying to make amends? Because she's dying. Malcolm's voice cracked. She called me 2 months ago. First time we'd spoken since 1983. Said she had pancreatic cancer, 6 months to live. Wanted to fix things before she died. Asked me to come to the gala to help expose the truth. And you said yes? I said yes because I want the truth out too. The difference is, Victoria thinks she can make amends by donating money and throwing parties. Malcolm's eyes hardened. I know the only way to make amends is to burn the whole thing down. Before Ben could respond, his phone buzzed. Emily, get to the estate now. We have a situation. The Blackwood Estate was ablaze with lights when Ben arrived 20 minutes later, parking behind 2 police cruisers and Emily's department SUV. Deputy Ramirez met him at the door. She in the solarium? Ben asked. Library, and she's pissed. Ben found Emily standing in what had once been Morgan Blackwood's surveillance room, but was now a beautifully appointed library. Victoria Blackwood sat in a leather chair, pale but composed. Dr. Sophia Patel stood nearby, medical bag in hand. Ben. Emily turned. Victoria collapsed 20 minutes ago. I didn't collapse, Victoria corrected. I had a momentary dizzy spell. Dr. Patel is being overly cautious. Your blood pressure is dangerously low, Sophia said firmly. You need to be in the hospital. I need to be at my gala in 3 days. Victoria's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Emily caught Ben's eye and tilted her head toward the door. They stepped into the hallway. Sophia thinks Victoria's cancer diagnosis is fake, Emily said in a low voice. Her Paris doctors had her in remission 6 months ago. The terminal diagnosis came from Dr. Richard Sterling, who, surprise, is invited to the gala. Ben's mind raced. Malcolm Ashford just gave me his father's diary. Says it details 50 years of Blackwood family crimes. Claims Victoria's known about it for 40 years. Known and done nothing? According to Malcolm, yes. He thinks the gala is performance, not justice. Emily's expression was grim. What if they're both right? What if Victoria knows about the crimes but needed a reason to come back and expose them? A terminal diagnosis would be perfect cover. You think she faked her own cancer? I think someone is being manipulated, Emily said. The question is who? A crash from inside the library made them both spin. They rushed back to find Victoria on the floor, Sophia kneeling beside her, checking for a pulse. Call an ambulance, Sophia snapped. Now. Emily was already on her radio. Ben knelt next to Victoria, whose face had gone chalk white. The diary, Victoria whispered. Did Malcolm give you the diary? How did you? He's going to publish it. Stop him. It's not the whole truth. Her eyes rolled back. Sophia swore and began CPR. 10 minutes that felt like hours later, paramedics loaded Victoria onto a stretcher. Sophia rode with her in the ambulance, barking orders about cardiac monitoring and toxicology screens. Emily and Ben stood in the circular driveway, watching the ambulance disappear down Ravenshead Road. Toxicology screens, Emily said. Sophia thinks she was poisoned. At the estate she controls, with her own staff, or by someone who got access to the estate. Emily's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, her expression darkening. I'll be right there. What? That was Tom. Someone broke into the Historical Society building, stole documents from the old mill restoration files. What kind of documents? The original architectural plans from 1900. Emily was already heading for her SUV. The ones that show everything about the mill's structure, including the parts that weren't in the public records. Ben felt cold. The sub-basement, the one mentioned in Samuel Carter's letter. The one we never explored because the case was closed. Emily climbed into her vehicle. Someone's looking for something at that mill, and I think Victoria Blackwood knows what it is. Chapter 5. The Hidden Chamber. The old mill stood like a wounded giant against the October moon, its broken windows reflecting starlight. Tom Harris met Emily and Ben at the perimeter, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Historical Society reported the break-in at 1800 hours, Tom said. Officer Chen is inside securing the scene, but I wanted you to see this first. He led them to what had once been the main entrance, now sealed with yellow police tape from the investigation 3 months ago. Someone had cut through the tape cleanly. Professional, Emily observed. That's not all. Tom pointed his flashlight at the ground. Boot prints in the mud, leading into the mill. Size 11, work boots, fresh, made within the last 2 hours. They're still here. Ben breathed. Emily's hand went to her service weapon. Tom, call for backup. Ben, you stay. Not a chance. She shot him a look. I have Malcolm Ashford's diary in my car, Ben said. Whatever's in that sub-basement is connected to what's in these pages. You might need me. Emily wanted to argue, but time was slipping away. Stay behind me. Don't touch anything. If I say run, you run. They entered the mill carefully, flashlights cutting through the gloom. The interior was a skeleton of its former self. Rusted machinery, collapsed floors, graffiti from decades of teenage dares. Moonlight through broken windows created pools of silver among the shadows. The sub-basement was accessible through a trap door on the main floor. Emily had seen it during the original investigation, but hadn't explored it. The case had been solved, the criminals arrested, no need to dig deeper. Now the trap door stood open. Fresh scratches marred the wood where someone had pried it up. Ladder's new, Tom observed. Someone installed it recently. Emily descended first, her flashlight revealing stone walls slick with moisture and the smell of earth and decay. The sub-basement was larger than she'd expected. A network of rooms carved into the bedrock when the mill was built. Why would a paper mill need all this space? Ben whispered. It wouldn't. Emily swept her light across the walls covered in what looked like old water damage, but might have been something else. Unless it wasn't just a paper mill. They heard it then, the sound of metal on stone echoing from deeper in the chamber. Emily motioned for silence. They moved forward, following the sound through a narrow passageway that opened into a larger room. A man stood in the center, digging frantically at the stone floor with a crowbar. He was in his 60s, wearing expensive clothes now covered in dirt, his silver hair wild. Professor Hartley, Emily said, training her flashlight and weapon on him. Step away from the floor. Edmund Hartley spun, the crowbar clutched in both hands. His face was a mask of desperation. You don't understand. I have to find it before the gala. Find what? The evidence. Hartley laughed, a sound edged with hysteria. Victoria Blackwood sent me a letter. Said if I didn't help her expose the truth, she'd reveal my family's involvement in the mill fire. Said the proof was buried here, in a lead box, under the sub-basement. Emily kept her weapon steady. So you broke into the Historical Society, stole the architectural plans, and came digging for evidence that might not exist? It exists. Hartley's eyes gleamed. The Blackwood and Hartley families have been covering up crimes for generations. My great-uncle David was just one link in the chain. Victoria knows all about it. She has her father's diary, her brother's research, everything. Malcolm's diary? Ben said. Did Victoria show it to you? Pieces, enough to terrify me. Hartley gestured at the hole he'd been digging. But she said there's more. Physical evidence linking both our families to murders going back to the mill's founding. She's going to expose everything at the gala unless you find it first. Emily finished. And do what with it? Hartley's expression crumbled. I don't know. I just know I can't let my family's legacy be destroyed. The Historical Society, my position at the college, my children's futures, all of it would be gone. So, you'd rather destroy evidence of murder? I'd rather not be punished for crimes committed before I was born. Hartley's voice echoed off the stone walls. My great-uncle was a monster, yes. But I'm not. I've spent my life studying history, teaching students, trying to do good. Why should I pay for his sins? It was a question Emily understood too well. The weight of legacy, the sins of fathers. But understanding didn't mean condoning. "Drop the crowbar, Professor." Hartley's shoulders sagged. The crowbar clattered to the floor. As Tom moved forward to cuff him, Ben's flashlight found something on the wall. Scratches in the stone, deliberate patterns forming words. "Emily," Ben said quietly, "look at this." She moved closer. The scratches were old, maybe a century old, carved deep into the granite. "The Raven Society, 1873 to question mark, truth lies beneath." "The Raven Society," Emily repeated. She'd heard rumors during the festival fiasco investigation, whispers of a secret organization among Ravenwood Cove's founding families. "It's real," Hartley said hollowly. "That's what Victoria's trying to expose. Not just individual crimes, but the whole rotten conspiracy. A secret society that's controlled this town since its founding." Tom's radio crackled. "Sheriff Harris, we have a situation at Ravenwood Medical Center. Dr. Patel is requesting Detective Wilson immediately." Emily's blood ran cold. "Victoria? She's conscious and asking for you. Says she knows who's trying to kill her." Chapter 6. A Death Foretold. Victoria Blackwood looked small in the hospital bed, diminished by IV lines and monitoring equipment. But her eyes were sharp when Emily entered her private room. "Detective?" Victoria's voice was weak but clear. "I need to tell you something before the gala, in case I don't survive it." Sophia stood at the bedside, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes warning Emily to be careful. The toxicology screen had come back positive for digitalis, a heart medication that in high doses caused cardiac arrest. "Someone poisoned you," Emily said, pulling a chair close to the bed. "At your own estate." "Not at the estate, earlier." Victoria managed a wan smile. "This morning's tea at the Seafarer Diner. I met someone there, someone I thought I could trust." Emily's mind raced. Lucy's Diner, the heart of town gossip, the place where everyone gathered. "Who?" "Margaret Chen, my assistant." Victoria's eyes clouded. "No, that's not quite right. She's Thomas Chen's granddaughter. Thomas was the man I loved, the one I left behind." Sophia's medical training kicked in. "Miss Blackwood, you need to rest. I need to finish this." Victoria's hand shot out, surprisingly strong, gripping Emily's wrist. "Margaret found me in Paris 6 months ago. Said her grandfather had died. That his last wish was for me to come home. I believed her. But now I think she's been poisoning me slowly, making me think I have cancer, manipulating me into coming back." "Why?" Emily asked. "Revenge." Victoria's laugh was bitter. Thomas spent his whole life loving a woman who abandoned him. Margaret blamed me for his unhappiness. She wanted me to suffer as he suffered, to think I was dying, to watch my redemption efforts fail, to die here in Ravenwood Cove, alone and disgraced. Emily's phone was already out, calling dispatch. "All units, locate Margaret Chen. Consider her armed and dangerous." "There's more," Victoria said. "The diary Malcolm gave your journalist friend, it's incomplete. My father destroyed the most damning sections before he died. But I know what they said." "The Raven Society," Emily said. Victoria's eyes widened. "You know about it?" "Professor Hartley mentioned it. Right before we arrested him for breaking into the old mill." "Edmund?" Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. He's not part of the society. He's just a frightened man trying to protect a legacy he doesn't understand. She pulled Emily closer. The Raven Society isn't just about covering up crimes, Detective. It's about power, control. The founding families of Ravenwood Cove made a pact in 1873. They would share power, share profits, share secrets. Anyone who threatened that pact was removed, murdered, or driven away, like me. Victoria's breathing was labored now. Sophia moved to adjust her oxygen. I came back to expose them, to name names, show evidence, destroy the society once and for all. But I made a mistake. What mistake? I thought the society died with my father's generation. I thought Morgan was just a lone monster, not part of a larger conspiracy. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. But the society is still active, Detective. And they know I'm planning to expose them at the gala. Emily's blood ran cold. How many people are involved? I don't know. That's the genius of it. Members only know other members through coded communication, symbols, meeting places. My father's diary had clues, but not a complete list. Victoria coughed, a wet rattling sound. But I know this. Whoever poisoned me is a member, and they'll try again at the gala. Then we cancel it. No. Victoria's grip tightened. That's what they want. For me to die quietly, for the secrets to stay buried. The gala goes forward. But now you know to watch for more than just one killer. Sophia intervened. That's enough. Ms. Blackwood needs to rest. As Emily stood to leave, Victoria called out one last time. Detective? The sub-basement at the mill. Did you find the lead box? We found carvings, the Raven Society's name and a message. Truth lies beneath. Victoria's smile was grim. Then you haven't dug deep enough. Keep digging, Detective. The truth is worth any price. Emily found Ben in the hospital waiting room. Malcolm Ashford's diary spread across his lap, a notebook covered in his cramped handwriting beside him. I've been cross-referencing the diary with town records, Ben said without looking up. The Raven Society was real. Your founding families, Blackwood, Ashford, Hartley, Whitaker, Chen, they all had members. Chen. Emily sat beside him. Thomas Chen was in the Raven Society. According to Malcolm's father's diary, yes. He was inducted in 1960. Ben showed her a page covered in cramped 19th century handwriting. But here's what's interesting. In 1971, the same year Victoria left town, Thomas Chen resigned from the society. The diary doesn't say why, but Victoria said she was in love with him. He wanted to marry her. Ben's eyes widened. You think he left the society for her? I think he tried to. And I think that's why Margaret Chen is so angry. Emily pulled out her phone, dialing Tom. We need to find Margaret Chen immediately, and we need to re-examine the old mill sub-basement. There's something there we missed. Tom's voice came through tired but determined. Already on it. Officer Chen found something interesting at the mill. A concealed door behind the carving. We're bringing in ground-penetrating radar. How long until we can excavate? 2 days. Just in time for the gala. Emily looked at Ben. We need to make a decision. Do we cancel the gala and protect Victoria, or do we use it as bait to draw out the Raven Society? What does Victoria want? To expose everyone, no matter the cost. Ben closed the diary. Then we do both. We protect her and we catch them. How? A slow smile crossed Ben's face. By using the one thing the Raven Society doesn't expect. Which is the truth. Chapter 7. The Gala. The Blackwood Estate blazed with light against the October night sky. Emily stood in the circular drive, watching luxury cars deposit guests in evening wear, and felt like she was standing at the edge of a precipice. 3 days since Victoria's poisoning, 2 days since Professor Hartley's arrest, 1 day since they'd excavated the old mill's hidden chamber and found something that changed everything. Now, the gala. Emily wore a borrowed black dress and felt ridiculous. But Tom had insisted. Undercover meant looking the part. Deputy Ramirez was somewhere inside in a borrowed tuxedo. Sophia was positioned in the medical station Victoria had set up just in case. And Ben Matthews, looking unexpectedly sharp in a vintage tuxedo, stood beside Emily with a wire under his lapel and his journalist notebook replaced by a recording device. "Ready?" Emily asked. "To trap members of a century-old secret society? Absolutely not." "Good. Stay scared. It'll keep you sharp." They entered through doors that whispered open to reveal the transformed estate. The ballroom was breathtaking, crystal chandeliers casting rainbows across marble floors, autumn flowers arranged in elaborate centerpieces, a string quartet playing Mozart in the corner. And people. 80 of Ravenwood Cove's elite, mingling and laughing and drinking champagne as if they didn't know they were standing in a trap. Emily scanned the crowd. Mayor Caroline Whitaker, resplendent in emerald silk, holding court near the windows. Dr. Richard Sterling, the radiologist who diagnosed Victoria's fake cancer, in conversation with 2 Portland socialites. Malcolm Ashford, looking uncomfortable in formal wear, standing alone by the bar. And in the center of it all, Victoria Blackwood. She stood on a raised dais at the front of the ballroom, wearing a silver gown that made her look like moonlight given form. She was smiling, greeting guests, playing the gracious hostess. But Emily could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes constantly swept the room. Victoria caught Emily's gaze across the ballroom and nodded slightly. It was time. The string quartet finished their piece. Silence fell. Victoria moved to a microphone at the center of the dais. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice carrying through the ballroom with practiced ease. "I know this gala has raised questions. Why now? Why here? Why invite a town that my nephew terrorized just months ago?" Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. "The answer is simple," Victoria continued. "I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer's terminal. 6 months at most." Gasps, murmurs. Emily watched the crowd's reactions carefully. Most showed shock, sympathy. But a few, Dr. Sterling, Margaret Chen hovering near the kitchen entrance, Malcolm Ashford, showed something else. Knowledge. "But before I die," Victoria said, her voice strengthening, "I want to tell you a story. About this town, about my family, about a secret that's been kept for over 150 years. The ballroom was deathly quiet. In 1873, the founding families of Ravenwood Cove made a pact. They called themselves the Raven Society. Their goal was simple: maintain power, control wealth, and eliminate anyone who threatened their prosperity. Victoria's eyes swept the crowd. For generations, they succeeded. Murders were covered up. Crimes were hidden. Anyone who questioned was silenced. Mayor Whitaker stepped forward. "Victoria, this is..." True, Victoria finished. And provable. Because I found the evidence. She gestured to two waiters who stepped forward carrying a metal box, the lead box from the old mill's hidden chamber. They set it on a table beside Victoria and stepped back. Emily's hand moved to her concealed weapon. This was the moment. Victoria opened the box. Inside were documents, yellowed paper, leather-bound journals, photographs. These are the records of the Raven Society. Every member since 1873, every crime committed in its name, every life destroyed to maintain its power. She pulled out a photograph and held it up. A group of men in 19th century dress, standing before a building Emily recognized as the old mill. The original society, Victoria said. My great-grandfather is second from the left. Also pictured, Mayor Whitaker's ancestor, Dr. Sterling's grandfather, and yes, even Thomas Chen's great-uncle. Margaret Chen moved from the kitchen entrance, her face pale. The society evolved, Victoria continued. New members replaced old. The methods became more sophisticated, but the goal remained the same. She pulled out a more recent document, a typed list. This is the current membership roster, updated as recently as last year. Emily saw people in the crowd exchanging glances, some confused, others beginning to look afraid. The question you're all asking, Victoria said, is, who's on this list? That's enough, a voice said from the back of the ballroom. Dr. Richard Sterling stepped forward, his expression cold. You've made your point, Victoria. This vendetta of yours isn't a vendetta, it's justice. Victoria's eyes flashed. You falsified my cancer diagnosis, Richard. Made me think I was dying so I'd come back to Ravenwood Cove, so I'd make decisions based on a terminal timeline. Why? Sterling's face went white. I don't know what you're a member of the Raven Society, Victoria said flatly. As is Margaret Chen, as is Mayor Whitaker, as were my father, my nephew, and yes, my brother Malcolm. Malcolm Ashford surged forward. That's a lie. Is it? Victoria pulled out a journal. Not her father's, a different one. This is your grandfather's diary, Malcolm. The one our father destroyed pages from, yes. But I found the original, and it names you as a member inducted in 2005. Malcolm's face crumbled. Around them, the ballroom erupted in shouting, accusations, denials. Emily moved forward, positioning herself between Victoria and the crowd. Ben activated his recording device. Ramirez appeared at the ballroom entrance, blocking the exit. And then everything went dark. The blackout lasted 5 seconds, long enough for chaos to erupt. Emily heard screams, the crash of breaking glass, the sound of people running. Emergency lights flickered on, battery-powered and dim. Emily's eyes adjusted to find Victoria on the dais, surrounded by 3 figures in black. One held a knife to her throat. Nobody move. Margaret Chen's voice was cold. Or she dies right here. Emily's weapon was already drawn. Margaret, think about what you're doing. I am thinking. Margaret's face was a mask of rage and grief. My grandfather loved this woman, spent his entire life pining for her, and she abandoned him. Then she came back, thinking she could make amends with money and parties. Your grandfather left the Raven Society for her, Emily said, piecing it together. He wanted to be free of the conspiracy so he could marry her. And she left anyway. Margaret's hand trembled, the knife pressing against Victoria's throat. He died alone, Emily. Heartbroken. And she lived in Paris, surrounded by art and beauty and everything she denied him. So, you poisoned her. Sophia's voice came from near the medical station. Digitalis in her tea. Made her think she had cancer by paying Dr. Sterling to fake scans. Sterling, near the windows, made a run for it. Ramirez tackled him before he got 5 steps. The diagnosis was supposed to bring her home to die alone and scared, Margaret said. But she turned it into this spectacle, this redemption tour. Her voice broke. She doesn't deserve redemption? Maybe not, Victoria said quietly. But Thomas did, and you're dishonoring his memory by becoming what he fought against. Margaret's hand wavered. Your grandfather left the Raven Society, Victoria continued, because he believed in truth, in justice, in doing what was right, even when it cost him everything. Tears streamed down Victoria's face. I was wrong to leave him, wrong to choose safety over love. But killing me won't bring him back. It'll make you pay. I'm already paying. Victoria gestured to the lead box. I'm exposing the society, destroying my family's legacy, spending my last months, however many I actually have, trying to fix what I broke. Isn't that payment enough? For a long moment, Margaret stood frozen. Then, slowly, the knife lowered. Emily moved fast, crossing the distance and disarming Margaret before she could change her mind. Ramirez was there immediately, with handcuffs. As Margaret was led away, still crying, Victoria sagged against the dais. Emily caught her before she could fall. Is it really over? Victoria whispered. Emily looked at the ballroom, at Mayor Whittaker being questioned by Tom, at Malcolm Ashford sitting alone with his head in his hands, at the lead box with its damning evidence. The Raven Society is finished, Emily said, but the reckoning is just beginning. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. 3 days after the gala, Emily stood in what had been the Blackwood Estate's library and was now the temporary headquarters for the largest investigation in Ravenwood Cove's history. The Raven Society roster had named 14 current members. 7 were already under arrest, including Dr. Sterling, Margaret Chen, and Professor Hartley. 3 more, including Mayor Whittaker, were cooperating with the investigation in exchange for reduced charges. 2 had fled, 1 to Canada, 1 to parts unknown. The remaining 2 had turned state's evidence. And Malcolm Ashford had confessed everything. He was inducted in 2005, Ben said, reviewing his notes. The Gazette had been working around the clock to document the scandal. After his father died, he thought refusing would dishonor the family. But he never participated in any actual crimes. Just attended meetings, paid dues, kept secrets. Still makes him an accessory, Emily said, but her voice lacked heat. Tom Harris appeared in the doorway. Victoria wants to see you, upstairs. Emily found Victoria in the solarium, the room where this had all started. She looked frail, smaller than she had at the gala, but her eyes were clear. Sophia gave me the news, Victoria said without preamble. The digitalis poisoning masked my symptoms, but underneath, the cancer is real. Not terminal, not yet, but it's there. Emily sat across from her. I'm sorry. Don't be. I have treatment options. 6 months has become 2 years, maybe more. Victoria's smile was wan. Funny how poisoning someone accidentally gave them a reason to fight. Is that what you're going to do? Fight? Every day. Victoria gestured to the window, to Ravenwood Cove spread below like a painting. But not here. I'm selling the estate to the town. It'll become a museum about the mill fire, the Raven Society, all of it. Let history be the judge. And you? Paris, I think, to finish my actual redemption. Victoria's expression turned wistful. I spent 40 years running from this place. It's time to make peace with it from a distance. Emily understood. Some towns you loved, some you left, and some you could only heal from far away. The week after Victoria left, Emily drove to the old mill alone. The restoration work had begun in earnest. The Historical Society, under new leadership, was turning it into exactly what Victoria had promised. But Emily wasn't there for the museum. She descended into the sub-basement, past the hidden chamber where they'd found the lead box, to a section they'd discovered during the excavation. A room that the architectural plans had never shown. The walls were covered in names, hundreds of them, carved into stone over decades. John Haskell, silenced 1901, Sarah Whitaker, removed 1923, Thomas Chen, freed 1971, Anna Whitaker, truth speaker 2023. Victims of the Raven Society, people who'd questioned, investigated, threatened to expose. Most were dead. Some, like Thomas Chen, had survived but been broken. Emily added one more name to the wall, using a chisel Tom had given her. Victoria Blackwood. Redeemed 2024. She stepped back, studying her work. It wasn't perfect. The letters were crooked, the spacing uneven, but it was honest. Ben's voice echoed from above. Emily? You down there? Coming! She took one last look at the memorial wall, then climbed back toward the light. Above ground, Ben was waiting with 2 coffees from Lucy's diner. They sat on what had once been the mill's loading dock, watching the sun set over Ravenwood Cove. The Gazette's publishing the full Raven Society expose tomorrow, Ben said. Front page, 12,000 words. Jack Fuller is calling it the story of the century. It might be. You okay? Emily considered the question. She'd been injured during the gala's chaos, a gash on her arm from broken glass that Sophia had stitched up. It throbbed now, a reminder of how close they'd come to disaster. But they'd won. The Raven Society was destroyed. Victoria was alive. Justice, however imperfect, had been served. I'm okay, Emily said. You? Ben grinned. I'm fantastic. I just broke a century-old conspiracy, my blog went viral, and Jack offered me the features editor position. Congratulations. There's more. Ben's expression turned shy. I was thinking, that dinner we keep almost having but never quite getting around to. Maybe we could actually have it this time. Emily felt herself smile. Are you asking me on a date, Matthews? I'm asking you to have blueberry pie and coffee at Lucy's diner while we discuss literally anything except murder. Is that a date? In Ravenwood Cove, that's practically a marriage proposal. Ben laughed, and Emily found herself laughing too. The tension of the past 2 weeks finally releasing. They sat there as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. 2 people who'd stared down darkness and found light on the other side. Emily's phone buzzed. Tom. Officer Chen found something at the estate. You need to see this. Some mysteries, it seemed, never truly ended. Duty calls? Ben asked. Always. Emily stood, draining her coffee. But that dinner invitation is still open, right? Standing invitation, whenever you're ready. I'll hold you to that. As Emily drove back toward town, the old mill shrinking in her rearview mirror, she thought about Victoria Blackwood's final words before leaving for Paris. The truth is worth any price. The Raven Society was gone. The Blackwood Estate was becoming a museum. Ravenwood Cove's darkest secrets were finally being brought to light. But Emily had learned something during this investigation. Truth didn't end stories. It just revealed which ones still needed to be told. And in a town like Ravenwood Cove, there were always more stories waiting. The mystery was far from over. Epilogue. 3 months later, Emily received a letter postmarked from Paris. Dear Detective Wilson, I'm writing to thank you for saving my life, literally and figuratively. The cancer treatment is going well. My doctors are cautiously optimistic. I've been thinking about that night at the gala. About Margaret Chen and her grandfather's heartbreak. About Malcolm and the weight of family legacy. About all the people the Raven Society destroyed over 150 years. You asked me once why I really came back to Ravenwood Cove. I told you it was to make amends. That was true, but not complete. The whole truth is this. I came back because I was afraid. Afraid of dying alone in Paris, surrounded by beautiful things, but empty of meaning. Afraid that my life had been a waste of safety and comfort, while people I loved suffered. The gala didn't fix that fear, but it transformed it. I learned that redemption isn't about grand gestures or public confessions. It's about choosing truth, even when the cost is high. Even when you might not survive it. You understand that better than most, I think. You came back to Ravenwood Cove after your own tragedy in Boston. You chose to face ghosts rather than run from them. That takes a different kind of courage. I hope you're healing too, both from the injury at the gala and from whatever drove you home in the first place. Take care of that town, Detective. It needs people like you, people who dig for truth no matter how deep they have to go. Yours in gratitude, Victoria. Emily folded the letter carefully and slipped it into her desk drawer, next to her mother's locket and the notebook of unsolved mysteries. Then she turned back to the file on her desk. A new case, a new puzzle, a new opportunity to find truth in the shadows. Outside her window, Ravenwood Cove carried on, its secrets layered like sediment, waiting to be uncovered. And Emily Wilson, detective and native daughter, was ready to dig. The end. Author's note. Book 3 of the Ravenwood Cove. Mystery series completes Emily's evolution from returning detective to the town's trusted protector. The Raven Society storyline will continue to ripple through future books, as its destruction has created power vacuums and exposed secrets that certain people will kill to keep hidden. Coming next, Book 4, The Whispering Pines Enigma. When a map discovered in the library leads to a decades-old disappearance, Emily must navigate Ravenwood Cove's past to prevent a present-day tragedy. Some mysteries don't end when the story does. Thank you for listening here at Mystery Manor Audiobooks. If this story stayed with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, step inside. The mystery awaits.